I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, August the 15th, brought to you in part by Macrocin by Bimeda. Macrocin is a bold, straight shooting tulathromycin injection that does what it's supposed to do for you, for your cattle, and for your bottom line. For more information, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards having a lighter run again this week, about 4,500 head. You know, they sold all those yearlings there, several weeks ago for about a month. They just had yearling special after yearling special on top of their big videos, but just kind of light runs there now. Did get some moisture there last week, so they're appreciative of that. You want to look into their commingled sales for you smaller producers in the four-state area coming up this fall. They'll have those. If you bring your cattle in on Sunday, then you can get those put together with other small producers and sell in larger groups, and it makes those cattle bring significantly more money. So that's a good thing to do. And one of the most progressive auction markets in the country is Joplin Regional Stockyards. Tight supplies in August, talking about market ready cattle. That's about like saying hell is freezing over, or 4th of July parade was canceled due to snow, because we always have a big glut of fat cattle in August. The market always takes it right in the shorts, and it's not that way this year. It's totally different. We were beginning to get worried about that here a few weeks ago, because we saw that we had gotten out of the green conditions, the really current, extra current conditions that we had earlier in the summer. But now all of a sudden here we are again with tight numbers of market ready cattle. And why is that, and why is that different? Well, there was very little, if any, winter forage around, and didn't have the wheat pasture that we normally have and things like that. And people put cattle in the feedlot at a lighter weight, much lighter weight, and at an earlier age than they normally do, which the cattle would be gaining if they were turned out. They'd be gaining in the feedlot, but in the feedlot they gain significantly quicker, and they're going to finish quicker. So we've gotten through most of that, and so we're really headed for some tight supplies come this fall. But already it appears that our numbers have gotten really tight on those cattle that are ready to go to slaughter. Now we have to remember that we've still got a big July placement number for this month's cattle on feed report, and I'm hoping, and I have some doubt, that the analysts that put the average guess together are not going to take that into consideration enough. It's going to be a huge July placement number, and it's going to be hard for those guys to get a handle on that, because your biggest movement of cattle, feeder cattle and calves, was in Central and South Texas, and we have zero reporting of that information anymore. Texas kind of let their market news program go statewide, and so the only sales they report now is just a handful in the western part of the state and the northwestern part of the state. So we have no good feel at all for how many cattle moved in there, other than just private source statements and reports and things that come out. But those guys are really going to have to take that into consideration, or we could be in for a bearish cattle on feed report, and we sure don't need that right as everything's rolling in our favor right now. But we've another reason that we're low on numbers is just simply we have killed so many beef cows. It's just finally starting to catch up, and it's going to get progressively more tight on market ready supplies and supplies of all classes of beef cattle, because we're super short on our cows. And that's also been exacerbated by the Texas drought, and we just come off that big drought up there in the northern plains in South Dakota and eastern Montana and places like that just a year ago, and since then, less than a year ago too. So we've got extra tight numbers, and we're just going to see that signal demand, and then we're going to see higher prices going forward. I really got bullish on Thursday whenever I saw that the Southern Plains, when it looked like 138 was the best they could do, they went to 140. And your big four packers, your major packers, got aggressive in the cash market on Thursday. Didn't buy a lot of cattle. There wasn't a lot of cattle to buy. I'm even hearing that we're starting to get caught up on our numbers, our market ready numbers in the South too, and they're not bulging near as much. So, I've been kind of doubtful on how we were going to gain the market position that we needed to make a lot of these feeders work. I think we're headed in the right direction now, and I think we're on the right side of things. But we still need to get Cattle Market Transparency Act done. We still need to see some changes in your CME Live Cattle Futures contract. We still need to get truth in labeling at some degree passed. We've been bringing in so much beef from Brazil, especially. That was another thing. JBS shut down 7 of its beef plants in Brazil this week, put their workers on vacation. That was most of the time, anytime you have a packing plant go down, that's not good for the market. But for here, it may be good because there may not be as much of that beef to bring over as an import, we've already absorbed all that. Our cow numbers have been down so tight. And, if you see them, you need to be buying some light cows. If you can get them bought, some light thin cows. If you got something to feed them, that would be an awfully good project for you to do. We're yet to see anybody start keeping any heifers back to speak of. So, that's going to have to start happening at some point, and we haven't started seeing it yet. So I'm thinking that this big market rally could last for a couple of 3 years right here. So, I mean, it's still going to be seasonal, but it's still going to be better than normal or significantly better than normal. But I just don't know where all these cattle are going to come from. We've got several of these new plants, packing plants coming online. We had ribbon cutting and a big announcement from the governor and from Amarillo dignitaries about the producer-owned beef, the new packing plant that is going to start construction and supposedly going to be up and running in just a little over 2 years from now. And that may be getting kind of on the downside of the tight supplies by then, but that's a producer-owned beef plant that's being put together by a lot of big cattle feeders in the Texas Panhandle, and it's got a lot of support, and they've got money coming in from the state. They got a bunch of tax subsidies from Amarillo to get that put in. And then we've got the big plant in North Platte. I'm not sure where we're at on that. We got another beef plant coming in near St. Louis. A lot of other ones, being talked about, but maybe aren't as far along in the stage. I seen this week where the new largest feed yard in Nebraska has jumped another hoop to get the okay to be built, and that's going to be in extreme southwestern corner of Nebraska down on the Colorado line. I don't know where all these cattle are going to come from. We've added on to all the feedlots pretty much in the Southern Plains, the bigger ones, and they're just we're going to have to start keeping some heifers back. And this week, for the second week in a row, and the first time since the mid-80s, 1980s, have we slaughtered more female cattle than we have male. So, we're due in for some really tight supplies and a lot of demand, what it sounds like to me, which results in good market. But saw on Sunday night they were getting rain in western Nebraska, widespread rain in western Nebraska, and I mean they have been needing it so bad, and it looked like the storms could be fairly severe. I hope it doesn't do more damage than it does good, but any kind of moisture is badly needed in that area. I do want to mention some people within the industry, and I hate to make this an obituary report, but some people that I want to recognize their passing, and really good guys that's happened in the last week. And one of them is Dan Williams. He was the 1982 WLAC champion auctioneer. And I tell you what, I got the opportunity to meet him a few times, and really a gentleman. I mean, a really nice guy. Come from out in South Carolina, which is not a place where we see a big crop of world livestock auctioneers, but he was a very, very good one, still selling cattle there in his late years, but really, really a good guy, and we hate to see the passing of him. Another friend of mine that passed here in just the last few days was Gary Lewis from Portales, New Mexico. Years ago when I lived in Clovis, he had a preconditioned yard there in Clovis, and then was active in the cattle business around Clovis, and then later in his life, and then during my career with USDA Market News, he was a state livestock market news reporter for both Texas and New Mexico, and that's what he was doing in the last several years, was reporting markets in eastern New Mexico at Clovis and at Roswell. But he was a cowboy, a cattleman, and a really, really good guy. Going to miss Gary Lewis. The third one I'm going to mention is Walter Hall from Clayton, New Mexico. He was an auction man. He was an auctioneer most all of his life. Owned All Right Auction Service, farm auction service out of Clayton. He also owned and operated a sale barn in Las Vegas, New Mexico for several years. But he was a friend of our family. He let me get up an auction at his sale barn once in Las Vegas, New Mexico, and that was a thrill for me whenever I was first getting started. And just a really, really good guy and a good friend of my late father's. Let's talk about your board for last week. August live cattle futures, Monday was up 47, Tuesday was down 37, Wednesday was up $1.22, Thursday up 140, and Friday down 37 cents, with August live cattle futures ending the week at 140.22. That was up $2.35 for the week. I mentioned earlier this past week that a lot of your northern Plains cattle feeders are calling that the Texas CME contract, because it just kind of indicates what's going on in your extreme southern plains. Well, it's hanging right in there with that, because the market was 140 in Texas Panhandle on late on Thursday and on Friday. October live cattle futures 144.5 ending the week. That was up 63 cents. August feeder cattle, Monday was up $1.75, Tuesday was down $2.47, Wednesday up $1.87, Thursday down 72, Friday down 32. August feeder cattle ended the week at 179.62. That was up just 10 cents. So a lot of volatility, not any change hardly at all through the week. September was down a nickel for the week at 183.37. Corn, your new crop December contract, 642.25 cents a bushel. That was up 32.25 cents, which you would have thought would have killed feeder cattle, but there's just a lot of demand for them out there. Beans, new crop November, 1454.25, and that was up 45.5 cents for the week. Talk about your fat cattle trade. Up through Thursday, they had sold 84,700 head, with not much more than that happening on Friday. But pretty brisk trade there on Wednesday in the northern plains, Thursday in the southern plains. Live sales, still a big wide price spread on live and dress both, but especially live, 138 to 149. Of course, that 138 was kind of early in the trading session, then it went to 140 in the southern plains. And that 149 would sure be an extreme top, with a lot of cattle bringing 145 and 146 late in the week, but still $2 to $3 higher on live sales. Your weighted average on live steers in your 5 area feeding region up through Thursday, 140, 131, only about 50 cents higher than last week's weighted average. So we would expected that to be a little bit more, but it just where the trade happened. But dress sales from 228 to 236, that was $3 to $4 higher, with a weighted average on dress steers at 230.56. Give you guys a complete weekly wrap up when it comes out. It'll come out on Monday, and I'll give it to you for our Tuesday visit. But Friday didn't have much for sale, 600 head confirmed In Iowa, about 32,000 for the week, which is good for them. 145 to 146 on Friday in Iowa. Nebraska, 200 head confirmed on Friday. A little over 31,000 head for them for the week, so that was a good movement there. 229 dressed was the only price. No trade in Kansas or Texas. Kansas sold about 15,700 head for the week, and Texas only 6,600. Box beef cutout values were lower. You look at your weighted average on all of last week's sales and choice cuts, 264.14, down 344 from the previous week's weighted average, and your late Friday sales were not quite $1 cheaper than that, so still selling cheaper. Selects 238.14 for your weighted average on all of last week's sales, down 282 from the previous week's weighted average, and the late Friday sales were a little more than $1 higher than that weighted average on Select, so they're going in opposite directions, but still choice Select spread around $26, 575 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Your slaughter for the week, 647,000, 4,000 less than the previous week, 11,000 more than the same week a year ago, but we were running along so good. And then we only had a 33,000 head harvest on Saturday, which is what really limited it, because we were kicking along pretty good through the week. But talk about what else is going on. Western Video Market is having a big video sale here today, Monday, and Tuesday. So August the 15th and the 16th, it's their Cheyenne, Wyoming sale. Be a lot of good cattle on there. I expect they'll probably sell the yearlings starting out here today on Monday. And they'll have some over here in the central part of the United States that they'll start out on. Be a lot of fancy Western calves, guys. And you need to get a hold of them, because this market's just going to keep getting higher and keep getting higher. So if you guys want to get something bought, get in there and buy some of those Western calves. To get to that sale, you can go to wvmcattle.com or go to dbauction.com and just select a Western Video Market sale. Talk about your feeder cattle market. For last week, I ended the week with your real-time index at 178.13. That was up $3.12 compared to the end of the previous week. Cash feeders in your sale barns firmed to $4 higher. More sharply higher in a few spots late in the week, as it just kept progressively getting higher, and I guess it's just going to continue to get higher and higher and higher as we go. I expect it'll happen. There'll be some weeks in October where supply will still outweigh demand, but it's going to be awfully good, and if you got a way to hold those cattle, put weight on them, put some cheap pounds on them, those pounds are worth a lot of money, guys. Talk about some of your sales last week. Late last week, Bloomington Livestock Exchange in Bloomington, Wisconsin sold 2 loads of steers on Friday. They weighed 930 pounds about on the average there at 174. That'd be pretty good. Mankato Livestock, Mankato, Kansas sold 61 head of 844 pound steers at 185.10. Bluegrass Stockyards of Richmond, Kentucky had a hell of a sale. Look at these loads and bigger that I pulled out of Cattle Market Central. Just 8 and 9 weight steers. They bring from 172 to 175.60. Very impressive. But your Zoetta stickout sale for the day for late last week was in Winter Livestock in Winter, South Dakota on Friday. Look at this automated marker report from Cattle Market Central, and you can see the best tested weights. 256 head of 8 weight steers averaged 859 with a weighted average price of 190.48 for 8 weights, guys. 609 head of 9 weight steers in Winter, South Dakota averaged 954 with a weighted average price of 182.02. Very impressive. Look at the heifers, had a lot of heifers. 597 head, 760 pound heifers averaged 184.06 on all those 7 weight heifers, and 450 head of 8 weight heifers averaged 868 with a weighted average price of 177.11. With those impressive quotes, it doesn't surprise you that Winter, South Dakota also has our Macrocin No BS top quote for the day, which was 70 head of steers, weighed 857 at $195. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.